So I'm Lewis Miguel Alexo. I'm the Manager Director and Co-Founder of BRIK BC Projects. We tokenise real estate property here in Australia. We're particularly focusing on three areas: Brisbane, Gold Coast, and the Sunshine Coast, which is in our state of Queensland in Australia. So in the areas those three areas we focus on is in what we call Southeast Queensland. So in the very small pocket of our big state that we have, and that's where most of the population is in terms when it comes to our state. So that's So basically we focus on luxury residential properties, and so in those particular areas in terms of given that. We always know that the fundamentals of real estate, and we always know location is always critical to any successful property. So again, given our background in terms of what we've been involved over many years, obviously they're all very much basic fundamentals in terms of what we tokenise, making sure it always ticks all the boxes in terms of our criteria. But so basically in terms of probably about me, just briefly. So I've got a CPA accounting background, so I'm actually a CPA, registered CPA in Australia. Been in terms as an accountant, been an accountant for around 28 years here in Australia. I've looked after small and driven small businesses, small medium-sized family businesses over the years. Most of them have been in the building construction space, whether it be builders, developers, and trades. So again, and obviously in terms of that provides a lot of insights. My family's come from the construction game. My father was a former working carpenter. So again, been around sites from a young age and building property. It's very much second nature when it comes to getting the feel of around property construction, and so I guess it's those skills that combining in terms of me combining the skills of being an accountant in terms of structure, asset protection, and tax, and forecasting, all the fundamental things in terms of my training as an accountant, and also combined with my skills and experience in the property space, provides us as an organisation very much a massive point of difference, especially my networks that I've got here in Southeast Queensland. And Mrs. BRIK, Melinda, my co-founder, she's involved on the property acquisition in terms of finding the properties and be able to identify some of these properties that ticks all our boxes. So that's that's the area she drives in terms of our BRIK BC projects business. But yeah, look, in terms of probably for the people listening to this recording, and I know the people who are listening here, that I can see that he's got that understanding. He's got an understanding in terms of what is real estate tokenisation. But for the people that are listening to this recording, and always just to bring back to an example in terms of in the traditional world, people have done it or they've thought of or they're thinking of in terms of going together and buying a property as partners in a property, and there might be 4 other people. You identify a property, say for $1 million. You don't want the banks involved, so everybody chips in $200,000 each, and basically go on a journey together. You buy that property together as 5 people, and then you obviously have the rewards and the benefits that come from owning that property in terms of renting that property out. So think of that example in a traditional world, but now we're actually doing it in a tokenized way. So we tokenize it on the blockchain. So all our properties are going to be tokenized. Our current one is tokenized in the Ethereum chain, but our second one coming up shortly will be on the Ravencoin blockchain and thereafter. So basically, it's just like a public register in terms of where those tokens are. So basically, we break up a property into, rather than having 5 people own it. So basically, anybody around the world can actually own one of our properties, in terms of having the rights and benefits of that property. So, and it could be up to 40,000 people, because each property is broken down, typically into 40,000 pieces, tokens, and then basically anybody can buy one or many in that property. So basically they can then have get the benefits and rewards of being involved in our property. So rather than being 5 people, we're taking globally anybody from anywhere in the world, and be able to get on a journey on that property with a collective of people having the benefits of that property. So again, it's a very simple process, but obviously the blockchains allows us to solve the problem by not getting banks involved. So we don't. There's no debt. So the properties, the benefits of that properties goes to the 100% of the token holders. So there's no banks involved. Again, the clunkiness of the financial systems that we all know, that the ability to borrow money to invest continues, especially in real estate property, continues to be harder and harder. We've got obviously increasing interest rates issues in terms of started already, and we've got inflationary issues and massive inflationary issues. So again, this provides a great avenue for people to get access to property, whether they're young, starting their journey, or basically whether they've been challenged in terms of obviously COVID, in terms of trying to get back in terms of accessing real estate to build a portfolio, their wealth portfolio. So always make a disclaimer that this is not financial advice. So you always need to do your own research, seek your own advice in terms of what we in terms of around our properties, our tokenised properties. So, that's basically in a nutshell. In terms of it's a property broken down into 40,000 pieces in our case, and be able to get on a journey together with a collective of people on that property. So that sort of brings it down to a very basic overview of what real estate tokenisation is. But today's show is the topic is why Gold Coast. It is our second focus area. So as I mentioned earlier, we're focusing on three areas. Gold Coast is our second one that we are going to be tokenising on. So we've had many meetings and then so forth. And obviously, property is a long game. You've got to be planning things out in advance. So basically, with things we're doing now, also things that we're actually planning out 3 years' time. So as we know, it takes a journey. It takes a while to build a property, and all our properties are either newly built or at most 2 years, 3 years old at most. So they're pretty new properties. But in terms of the Gold Coast, probably to give you sort of a bit of background, I actually put some tweets. I'll pin some tweets up just so that in your own time you can always have as a reference point in terms of what's there. They're pretty self-explanatory in terms of trying to highlight the key things and key people around the Gold Coast when it comes to, say, golf courses. It is the golf course mecca when it comes to great golf courses, which I've played quite regularly on some of those courses over the years. And again, if you do want to have a round of golf there, there's some links there that might just take you around for a game of golf on the pinned tweets. Also, but in terms of location, just to give you sort of a visual as to where is the Gold Coast in respect of Australia. So Gold Coast, in terms of where in Brisbane here, so it sits 70 kilometres south of Brisbane. So it's on the coast. So we're all on the coast. Most of Australia tend to live on the coast. That's where most of the population is, especially in terms of the eastern part of Australia. So we haven't quite ventured inland. I mean, there is, but obviously that's something that the government's trying to do, trying to get more people out to regional areas because it does need population in the inner parts of Australia. So that's another story. Just on that pin tweet, so basically showcasing some of another pin there, why Gold Coast, in terms of having a look around, some of the iconic people and so forth. All those things are very iconic to the Gold Coast. Where else we got here? We got just showcasing some of the homes that we're looking at tokenising. So just give you a bit of a sample of the typical homes we'll be tokenising on the Gold Coast. So just basically showing us around there. And then basically in terms of a bit about BRIK BC and how to buy tokens in our current series, our current BRIK series. So just sort of tweets, gives you sort of rounding on tweets. But in terms of the Gold Coast, probably if I sort of go back and sort of articulate in terms of some of the history as to where has it come from and why the Gold Coast. So I just like to go through some of those key points. It is, and I said that is the golf course heaven if you're a golfer, but it is also a beach heaven. So the many beaches, a long stretch of beaches. The white sand is very iconic. So if we have a look at the Surfers Paradise, which is our iconic beach, where everybody gets drawn into, very iconic to the Gold Coast. And so basically, the beaches are typically in terms of very much that there's no rocks. So you've got some points that coves that has got the rocks to Snapper Rocks down at very much south of the Gold Coast. That's a very famous surfing spot that every year holds the world title, the world surfing round there at Snapper Rocks. That's very much at the very south point of the Gold Coast, which we just call Coolangatta, at the Rainbow Beach there, which the surf spot is called Snapper Rocks. So again, we actually are very fortunate to have such great beaches here in Australia. Sometimes, one of the problems we do have when tourists come from other countries that have experienced surf, unfortunately, we do have a lot of fatalities on our beaches, especially around that surfers paradise. It can get rough sometimes. That's why obviously we've got lifesavers, and obviously people have to swim between the flags. So again, culturally, in terms of surf life saving, in terms of people that actually out there volunteer their time to save people and patrol the beaches, that's very much part of our culture. But unfortunately, some people think they can swim anywhere, and we have a lot of fatalities here on the Gold Coast, mostly tourists that don't follow the rules and that don't swim between the flags. So again, I think sometimes when people aren't used to the surf or they've never been involved in water in terms of beaches at all, it's quite a dangerous for people who do swim outside the flag. So, but yeah, look, we've got some fantastic beaches, we've got some fantastic people that give up their time during the week and weekends that volunteer to patrol our beaches, and we're quite fortunate to have these passionate people that do that, from young people down to at the other end of the scale, that do volunteer their time. But yeah, look, in terms of it's interesting because when we started our journey in terms of tokenizing real estate, which we actually started. All our things started using Gold Coast as a reference point, only because nobody knows where Brisbane is. So until we got the Olympics, but even now, everybody when you talk about Australia, obviously people know Sydney Opera House and they know Sydney, obviously out of the 2000 Olympics, and people the next thing people know is obviously Gold Coast with the famous beaches of Surfers Paradise. So we're always going to use Gold Coast to try and get a reference point as to where we are, but obviously now we've sort of got two reference points. We've got Brisbane, Gold Coast, but I think still Gold Coast. Although the Brisbane's got 2032 Olympics, everybody's still learning in terms of where it's going to be, and so Gold Coast this continues to be a reference point for us. The Gold Coast will have its some of the events of the Gold Coast for the Olympics. 2032 Olympics will also be held on the Gold Coast. So obviously Brisbane is the official city. But we've got some events that are also going to be based out, and some of the camps in terms of countries will be based out of Gold Coast and also Sunshine Coast. So, for example, obviously the Gold Coast will have the surfing, will have the beach volleyball. So all those events, the different sports, they will have quite a lot of the events on the Gold Coast. So they will get the exposure, and obviously that comes with obviously people moving to those areas before the Olympics. It's actually the city of the Gold Coast is actually the sixth largest city in Australia. So it's got 640,000 people and ever growing. So basically we've got the migration coming up from other states, and they can continue to kind of flow into Brisbane and Gold Coast, and to a lesser extent Sunshine Coast. So we do have that interstate migration, as well as people coming from other countries, and also some of the Aussies coming back home after COVID. So we've had some amazing results, which also we're going to be at later in terms of the property side of things. In terms of theme parks, it is also the capital of our country. In terms of Australia, when it comes to theme parks, so we've got Movie World, Dream World, Sea World. We've got so we've got all the theme parks here on the Gold Coast. So again, there is one of the tweets there. If you want to go for a roller coaster ride at Movie World, click the link and it'll take you on a roller coaster ride at Movie World. So little fun things I've put in there. So I hope you enjoy that on the pinned tweets. But yeah, look, we always we sort of try to explain compared to other countries, and I think probably from America perspective, if you think of Miami in Florida, where obviously the tourism and the properties and all the things that comes to and obviously in terms of theme parks, Orlando. So think of that area. If you're in the US, that's what Gold Coast is to us. So when we do go on holidays, and everybody does seem to gravitate towards the Gold Coast. If you're from other states, if you want the beach, you gravitate to the Gold Coast. we as a family here, we tend to sort of split ourselves when we go on holidays locally. We tend to split ourselves between the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast. So they've got sort of our usual points we go to when we go on holidays. But yeah, look, it's and then if you sort of look at England in the UK in terms of holiday spots, England in terms of escaping the winters, you probably haven't got one. You probably go to Algarve in Portugal as to escape the winters, and when you go on holidays. So I think that Algarve is very much populated by a lot of English right in there. So so that's probably the only comparison that I sort of know I could compare to as to what the Gold Coast is equivalent to, and I think it's probably equivalent to Algarve when it comes to the UK, where people get away and enjoy the beaches and the sun and what have you. So yeah, this sort of gives you sort of relevance in terms of that. The Gold Coast actually held the 2018 Commonwealth Games. So for those of you who actually are part of the Commonwealth, obviously with the UK and Canada and India and so forth, obviously we have our own games, Commonwealth Games. So the Gold Coast did hold the 2018 Commonwealth Games. We saw a bit of infrastructure being built for that. We also had obviously a lot of tourism come here for the Commonwealth Games. So also a good booster for the economy in terms of the Gold Coast, and obviously also benefit Brisbane as well at the same time. In terms of the economy, just on the economy, Gold Coast has very much always been driven by tourism. It is obviously one of its key industries, but over the years, it's also diversified a bit in terms of other industries, in terms of IT, marine, in terms of education, in sports. Obviously, property construction has been a massive thing over the last 40 years. In the film industry, because of Movie World, it's actually received quite a lot of movies have come here and been being filmed here on the Gold Coast, and basically in parts of Brisbane as well, and around the place. So basically, over the last sort of 10, 12 years, we've had a lot of the movie industry has increased substantially. Where films are done, overseas films, US-based films, where they're filming their locations. So obviously, with Chris Hemsworth, who lives down the road, he's at Byron Bay, where he's got his house, which is probably around 60 kilometres south of the Gold Coast. And so Chris has played a key part in bringing a lot of movies to Australia. So again, that's our movie industry continues to grow on the back of those key people, key Aussies that have gone overseas, done well in the film industry, and obviously they've become a bit, obviously in terms of being very respectful in terms of and being able to make key decisions as where movies are being made, and we thank for those iconic people in Australia. Probably just a pause here to say hello to Andrew, Zach, thank you for joining us. JC, thank you for joining us too. Really appreciate you coming along and listening to the live session. But yeah, look, in terms of these other subsectors in terms of the Gold Coast economy, they continue to grow. And again, the Gold Coast in terms of when it comes to property values is very much always a barometer in terms of where our economy stands, because the Gold Coast is always the one that sort of reacts first in terms of any movement in property, whether it's up or down. It's always a barometer in terms of our economy when it comes to the real estate property. So I've been around enough to see the different cycles over the years, and it's always true to it. So obviously over the last 12 months in particular, some of the Gold Coast areas we've seen increases at 40% in property values. Again, I'm talking to the town planners, I'm talking to the developers, and we're talking about pricing, what they're chasing on some of their properties. So I've got a good feel in terms of, I don't have to look at the stats, I know in terms of, in terms of what's actually happening. I mean, probably just an example, if, in terms of property as a barometer, if we say around 9 months ago, one particular property on the Gold Coast, it was sort of around, sitting around the sort of the 2 mil mark, and now that same property now is more like around 2.5 million. I'm talking sort of Australian dollars here, just to sort of give you some reference as to what the property's been doing. Some of these properties that have been at the cold front over the last 12 months, 2 years in talking to my colleagues and what they're doing as property developers. So it always gives a good barometer in terms of what's happening in the property real estate. Probably in terms of in terms of the who's actually been investing here on the Gold Coast over the years. We had when the boom of the Japanese economy was happening back in the 80s and 90s. The Gold Coast had a huge investment of Japanese investors coming into the Gold Coast. They acquired some of the resorts. They built quite large hotels and some of the major properties on the Gold Coast was actually owned by the Japanese investors that came in. Then sort of in the 2000s to sort of and until now, I mean, probably not so much right here, right now, but the Chinese sort of came in. The Chinese investors came in around the early 2000s and started investing heavily on the Gold Coast, as throughout Australia. But obviously, when it comes to property, they've been investing heavily on the Gold Coast. Probably given what's been happening over the last 2 years with in terms of the political issues in terms of China and Australia, probably that's sort of lessened a bit. I mean, have put some restrictions in terms of what the money goes out of the Chinese economy into Australia. So the government's put some quotas on that in terms of what they can get out of the country. So that's sort of lessened the amount. But I kid you not that if you go back to 3 years ago, it was the common thing to see back suitcases of cash actually literally turning up to real estate agents, them opening up their suitcases and actually all be cash in the suitcases. So I have some colleagues in the industry, real estate agents, and that wasn't the norm in terms of how the Chinese Chinese investors coming here to invest in real estate property. So again, it was interesting, I have to say the least. But yeah, look, in terms of the Gold Coast property values, if we sort of look over the last 12 months, I mean, it's sort of the median price around $1 million, but that's moving so fast. I mean, talk about houses, and that's sort of like around over the last 12 in terms of average wise, it's been around 33% increase in property values. I mean, we're not expecting that to be sort of the same over the next 12 months, but all to say that there is going to be this constant increase in values when it comes to Gold Coast housing. We strictly talk about here residential properties, residential homes, not apartments, not units, just specifically around houses, residential houses. So so that's sort of in terms of what's actually in terms of what's happening at the coal front around the Gold Coast when it comes to real estate property. In terms of the future of the Gold Coast, as I said, there's a lot of migration still coming here to the Gold Coast from other parts of the country. In terms of people coming from Sydney, people coming from Melbourne. Historically, we've always been behind in property values. Sydney and Melbourne have always been way ahead. So in terms of your typical home, say for example Melbourne in Victoria down south, a typical home compared to here has always been at least double the price to buy. So we've always been on catch up with other major cities, and similar to Sydney. So what's been happening basically, people after COVID especially, and given the challenge they had with COVID, which was very at one extreme compared to us, where we've only had 10 days in lockdown throughout the whole period of COVID. Again, that a lot of people from down south in Melbourne, due to the extreme lockdowns they had record lockdowns in Melbourne. Some people basically lost their livelihood, lost their businesses, and they basically wanted to start again rather than starting there. They've spoken about coming up to Queensland, up to Brisbane or Gold Coast or Sunshine Coast. So some of the people from Melbourne have actually started their new lives here. They basically sell up their house, and typically they can afford to buy two houses here on the Gold Coast or Brisbane. So, and that's sort of been very much a common story. And again, I talk to these people at the coal front. You get talking with them, and again, that's what's been happening. Obviously, that's driven property values, and then we've got the Australians that have been working overseas in London. They've been working in New York. They've been working in Florida, who have they've done pretty well for themselves. But after COVID, they basically realised that they want to come back to their roots and want to come back and live on the Gold Coast. Some of them might have been from before, might have been originally from down south, but they see in terms of starting their life back, or continue their life, and where they put their roots to the next stage of their lives. They see the Gold Coast and Brisbane as sort of the way to go. So Gold Coast is getting a lot of the Australians coming back from overseas. They want the beach lifestyle and all that thing that comes through living in a beach environment community. So we have got a lot of Australians coming back. It's only just started in January because our international borders only open up then. So we've got a lot of Australians that have been working overseas coming home to continue their lives now at where their roots have been before. Obviously, we have a lot of migration come from Asia as well in terms of China, Korea, Japan. We still got a lot of migration coming in other parts of the world in terms of India. So we have got a huge growing Indian community here in Australia because there's some negotiations that have gone between the Indian government and the Australian government in terms of helping India in the next stage of their development as a country, especially around education. India sees Australia to play a major part in education in terms of educating their people, whether they're coming here on visas, student visas, or we're basically engaging online to educate their population and going forward. So they're very much looking at Australia to play a key role in that. Our education system is very highly regarded around the world. We have got on the Gold Coast. We also have a lot of institutions in terms of universities, colleges that are based on the Gold Coast, like Griffith University. We've got Bond University, so just to name a few. So we are highly respected when it comes to the education space. So international students, it actually forms quite a big part in terms of our export dollars and in terms of how we sit as an export around international students' education. So again, Gold Coast does play a key part in that. Obviously, with the lifestyle, it does attract a lot of students that are coming here to study, whether they're studying a degree, whether they're studying postgraduate degrees, thesis in terms of whether they're masters, whether they're studying for a doctorate. So again, the Gold Coast does attract a lot of international students. So we got obviously one of the big major events, as I mentioned before. We've got 2032 Olympics. Brisbane is the city, obviously the official city, but Gold Coast will have the rights to a lot of the events in terms of where they're based from. As I said, will be things like the surfing. There'll be things like volleyball and other sports as well that will be based there as well. So the plan has actually been drafted up in terms of where all the sports can be based. So the government has released that as to the various sporting bases across Brisbane, Gold Coast, and Sunshine Coast. Which I'll put up later on, but I'll put that plan out just out of interest there. Just make a note of that. So in terms of our properties, so basically, probably just pause there, say hello to Xana who's joining us. Thank you, Xana, for joining us. Thank you for coming in live and listening. But in terms of our properties, so our particular focus at the moment in terms of the specific location on the Gold Coast, we're sort of looking around the Mermaid, Miami Beach, which is it's probably around 1 kilometre from the iconic Surfers Paradise, so down south of the beach of the Surfers Paradise, so 1 kilometre down the beach is Mermaid in Miami, Mermaid Beach and Miami Beach, and also Burleigh Heads is also another location which is a bit further, which is probably another kilometre down south from Miami. So they're the typical areas that we're starting off with that I've actually been in deep discussions and negotiation and locking in things already around the type of properties, the luxury properties we'll be tokenising. So around the area there is going to be houses that are sort of in obviously the luxury properties, but again they'll be in a total cost around the 2.6, 3 mil, 3.5 mil. So that's sort of the range that we're going to be doing in those areas. That particular area there of Mermaid Beach and Miami, over the last 12 months, we've seen an increase of 42% in property values. It is an area that's very much high end when it comes to the type of properties that are up there. So it's had a massive increase. I mean, that's even great then other areas like in Brisbane, we've had sort of around 26% increase in property values over the last 12 months. Other parts of the Gold Coast is medium, being 33%, where Mermaid and Miami has had a massive increase of 42%. Again, I'm not saying it's going to be continued every year, but certainly we see that values over the next 10 years will continue to rise. It won't be. I mean, we always say it's sort of, we see over the next 10 years that property values, they double up over every 10 years. We're seeing, given all these key drivers, we're seeing being around the 3.5 times to 4 times on the Gold Coast in terms of where the property sits today, and to where it sits in terms of value in 10 years' time around the Olympics. So, and again, all those other drivers, not just the Olympics, all those other drivers that are happening that I mentioned earlier. So just to give you an example, some of the properties have been sold in the area of late. So there's quite an iconic street called Hedges Avenue that so goes parallel to the beach. It's like the Esplanade of Miami and Mermaid Beach. Just to give you an example, some of the higher end properties that have been sold of late. So there was one last month. It was sold for $9.5 million. So it was a 5-bedroom home there. So right, basically the backyard of it actually edges to the beach. So that's it was a beautiful property that was sold. And actually, I think I'll put some pictures up on some of the tweets that showcase those properties. There was also another one. Also last month, that one went for $13.5 million. Got sold for. Again, a beautiful home, also backs to the beach. So these are the sort of properties that are in the area. Again, obviously, we're focusing more in total cost around between the 2.5 to 3.5 mil. That's the sweet spot where we see the properties, because obviously you always have to look in terms of return and what rent has been generated for it and so forth, and making sure you've got a very wide market. These ones are they're around 9 to 10 mil to 15 mil. Obviously, the market's a bit more narrow when it comes to renting those properties. Where we want to be in a sweet spot, and we see the 2.5 to 3.5 mil, max 4 mil in terms of US dollars, as sort of a sweet spot where they rent really well, and there's always a demand for them, and making sure that is obviously over the next indefinite period that continues to be the case. So that's why we sort of focus on that sweet spot. But knowing that we've got all these other big homes and very expensive homes around the area as well, which obviously helps with the value of the properties we're tokenising. So, but that's sort of in terms of what our properties that we're focusing on. We have got an in-principle agreement with the builder developer in terms of the luxury homes they're building, and we've got first rights to be able to access their properties that they're building. So, again, so pretty exciting. We're about to announce probably next month. He's actually just gone away on his world trip for some things he's got to do. So we'll be talking to another builder developer that's accessing his properties. So we'll shortly have 2 builder developers that we access their properties. We know what's coming up, and we very much get an insight in terms of what they're building and be able to plan and be able to secure some of these properties they're building. So again, we're very, very fortunate in terms of, and again, this is what provides us with a massive point of difference in terms of our network and the access to these people in different spaces that are doing things, which complements and provides us very much an insight what they're doing that complements us in tokenising our real estate properties, be able to plan and be able to lock things in with the network around me. But yeah, so that's sort of the content I wanted to cover today in terms of why Gold Coast. So we see Gold Coast as a major hub, as one of the major hubs in going forward. We would tokenise the real estate and be able to provide access to these beautiful properties, coastal properties, and hopefully, as we get on a journey and hopefully the token holders will be able to come out one day to the Gold Coast and be able to experience a lifestyle around it and see where their property is and so forth. So, but yeah, look, that's also all the content I want to cover around why the Gold Coast. And I'll open up for a Q&A, and it is a Q&A. So if there's any questions, please come up and ask, and give you the mic, and hope that sort of gives you a bit of an idea in terms of why the Gold Coast. um, for the experiences there, we've actually put some of the links that allows you to sort of get that feel as to the golf courses and the roller coaster rides and so forth. So, yeah. Hey, JC, how are you?
Hi, BRIK. Good to hear you.
Thank you, sir. And yourself, you're good?
Doing good, thank you. Thanks for doing these calls.
Pleasure.
Very, very informative.
When do you come to the Gold Coast? I've already bought the golf round. So when are you coming?
It sounds tempting. Years ago, I dealt with a company called Cantilever, and I noticed their address was Surfer's Paradise, and I thought it was a bit of a joke. And then I talked to them, and they said, no, that really is our address.
Yeah, actually, one of the pin tweets I put up there, that's the first slide, is actually the picture of Surfer's Paradise, the entry to the beach there.
Yeah, that's cool. So one question I have, and I'm not sure how much you can share on this, is can you share any thoughts on the timeline for some of the properties?
Yeah, so in terms of year one, we always said 11 properties was going to be the first year timeline. So obviously we launched the BRIK while back in January, where BRIK was going to be the next one. So basically we said the first 6 properties is going to be in Brisbane, with the 7th property and the 8th being on the Gold Coast. And so there's 3 all up on the Gold Coast in the first year, and 8 in Brisbane. But we're about to make some major announcements over the next few weeks in regards to the Gold Coast. So we might be playing around with the sequence of the timing of those properties. But yeah, look, in terms of it comes back to obviously the demand. At the end of the day, as I mentioned before, for us, we have no problem finding properties because basically, given our networks and access to properties, stock is not an issue. It just comes to the demand. And we've always said the first year was going to be 11 properties. And then second year, we go to 20 properties, a mix between Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. And then thereafter, every year, to stick to 20 properties. That's our goal in terms of what we put in our properties roadmap. Because it still keeps it boutique, keeps it obviously in control, and allows that opportunity for people to access these beautiful properties. So that's our roadmap. When it comes to the properties roadmap, that's sort of what we set out over the next 5 years to do that 11 first year, and then 20 thereafter. And I mean, if people want more, we can't do any more. I think in terms of our business model, 20 is like per year after year 2 and onwards is really where we set to be boutique, to be still engaged heavily with the community. So, in terms of when it comes to business, you know exactly where your parameters are, where your boundaries are. And I think you've got to be true to those parameters to keep it to the model you want it to be. And that's sort of our model, yeah.
And I think all of that is depends on the quantity of investors and the amount investors or buyers of your tokens are, the amount of interest. How is that side of things going?
Yeah, look, in terms of, as you know, it's all very early. We're still, hence why we're doing these sessions regularly to educate people on it. But yeah, we our roadmap of our marketing roadmap that we put in place. Well, we've obviously got different stepping stones we put along the way. We just keep ticking through those boxes. I'm a big believer that the August month it'll be a huge month for us in terms of exposure. Obviously, trying to expose ourselves around the world. Obviously, we've got quite a lot of exposure in terms of the US market, given obviously the community around, especially the community around the Ravencon community, who have been very supportive. But we're about to take things to another level. So the August month we see is another stepping stone that steps up to another level. And then basically from that, it's globally, talking globally here, that gives us exposure to different parts of the world. And we've been sort of focusing. We started focusing a little bit in India last week. There is a lot of deep connections between Australia and India. Obviously, being part of the Commonwealth and English speaking, and as India is. and given some of the agreements that have been done between Australia and India. So there is a lot of deep relationship there with India. So again, India is also another area that we're focusing on. But yeah, look, they're all stepping stones. Like, it's all very structured. That we, as you know, JC, given my accounting training, we are very structured how we do things, and again, it's just a matter of ticking through those. Would I like to have been quicker how things have happened in terms of BRIK? Well, of course, but at the end of the day, I'm also realistic, and my co-founder Melinda, Mrs. BRIK, she keeps reminding me that we're still very early in terms of, you think of how many platforms that are tokenising property out there. There's only, I think, 21 of us out there around the world, and we're the only ones in Australia doing it. So I always have to be a realist. I always have to sort of bring myself down to earth that we are very early. But at the end of the day, we need to keep ticking those boxes, kicking through those boxes, and from a marketing perspective. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you that if there were already other companies doing that in Australia, and it sounds like you're the only company at this stage.
Correct. So we're the only ones tokenising real estate here in Australia. Yeah. And look, it's here. As I said, we encourage with at the moment we're always going to be sticking to our southeast Queensland in terms of Brisbane, Gold Coast, and Sunshine Coast, and we'd love to have other players come into the market. Whether it be Australia or overseas players come in to do Sydney, because Sydney's a massive market, Melbourne a massive market. So again, and this is why I say, JC, for in terms of my vision, is to see that we've got, especially when we talk about the Ravencoin blockchain, my vision is to, and if I can play a small part in actually helping out and be a sounding board for new platforms coming on board and giving some guidance and the people to talk to, that my vision is basically to have on the Ravencoin blockchain that we're doing here in Brisbane. There's another one that comes and does it in Sydney. There's another one goes and does it in Miami Beach in Florida and all over the world and in London. And that's my vision. If I can be a small part in the cog that people are tokenising property on the Ravencoin blockchain around the world, that we can all then buy properties in the different parts of the world. That's my vision. That's my dream. And I said, for us, yes, we've got our vision, what we want to do, but I think it's far much bigger than that in terms of collectively helping other people come on the Ravencoin chain and doing what we're doing in other parts of the world. Yeah.
Do you have companies or people already contacting you about, how do you do this and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, look, as you know, we're part of the DigiShares stable. So I often, Klaus sometimes asks me, we've got this client or prospective client, do you mind speaking to them in terms of your experience and what you're doing, and give them some sort of insights in terms of what they should be doing. And so I'm always very helpful from that perspective. But I think I might have mentioned in my show before, is that I was approached to provide a bit of an insight in terms of what they can do. So out of Europe, out of Holland, and they've got they're more on the commercial side of things in terms of the $85 million project that they built, and they want to tokenise it. And I would basically said, I'm sort of having some guidance, and I'm doing some Ravencoin blockchain where this is where the future is in terms of if you want to tokenise real estate. So that's just an example. And I've also had another one you'll find this interesting, JC, is that freight ships. Someone approached him. This is not property, obviously, but this guy is looking at tokenising. Well, he's looking at tokenising two things: freight ships and also farms. So he wants to tokenise farms in the UK. But while he was talking about farms, by the way, I'm also looking at getting a fleet of ships, freighting ships, globally and maybe tokenising each one in its own right under a special purpose vehicle. So, so to answer your questions, I'm constantly being sort of a sounding board, whether they approach me directly or Klaus from DigiShares has asked me to sort of give my thoughts on it and what we're doing. Yeah.
I have one more question, last question.
No, you can have as many questions as you want, JC. Love questions.
How many hours a day do you sleep?
Well, if you ask Mrs. BRIK, she reckons I never sleep. But look, it's I don't need much sleep. I obviously coming from always building businesses in terms of our own and also helping other people over the years in terms of being mentors and advisors. for me, like 5 hours sleep is all I need. I'll get the occasional 7 hours every now and then, probably 1 or 2 days a week, but 5 hours is all I need. Actually, one of the guys on the Spaces actually on DMs has actually asked the same question. Does BRIK have sleep? I think it was actually Leon. Actually said that. Does BRIK have sleep? Yeah, I think we're all different. Mrs. Brick's different. She likes her number of hours. I think she does. I think she does 8-9 hours. But don't tell her that, or else I'll get in trouble. But no, thank you for that question, JC. Always love your questions, mate. But yeah, look, in terms of if there is other questions, we'll obviously try to stick to under an hour. But look, thank you for your questions, JC. I really appreciate it, and thank you for listening, Xander and Indy, and some of the people that had to leave. Really appreciate your support and listening in terms of what we're doing, and don't keep it a secret. Spread the word to your family and friends, and tell them what we're doing in Australia, and hopefully that gives them some sort of insights. In terms of what they can actually access that never before has been able to. So, thank you guys for your support. Probably as we sort of wrap up, just a couple of mentions here. So tomorrow we've actually got our show, what Jake and I host, What is Real Estate Tokenisation. And tomorrow we've actually got Jackson Blau from STM Markets. So the topic tomorrow is about in terms of what real estate projects are on blockchain out there. And obviously Ravencoin as well as other chains. And Jackson actually wrote his article actually a few weeks ago, and he featured Realty because Realty out of Detroit is where most of their properties are tokenized. They were the early pioneers in tokenizing real estate. They do theirs on the Ethereum blockchain. So again, just. We've got Jackson as our special guest, and obviously we'll ask him a few things in terms of he's very much at the coal front in terms of real estate tokenisation as part of the STM team, Security Tokens Market team. So we'll have looking forward to having him on so we can ask him a few questions and just talk about the topic and get his insights. No doubt he'll probably provide a little bit of an update. I don't think you can talk too much about it, but give us a bit of an update in terms of obviously the launch of the STM market in terms of tokenising their business last week, and be able to sort of give an update in terms of how things are going there. After their launch, their party, their launch party was actually last Friday, so see how everything's sort of going for them, and so we look forward to having Jackson on. And probably lastly, most of us know who's heavily involved in our community, Matt S. He was our Raven accumulator. I think his profile is named, but Sporting Sharks is the more common profile. So Matt was actually some of you remember, Matt was actually our auctioneer at Braveland that auctioned a lot of artists NFT to help them out in terms of their journey. Matt's a big supporter of NFT artists on the Ravencoin blockchain. Matt's also he's multi-chain in terms of the things he does. He's multi-chain focused, but I think the Ravencoin blockchain is very much in his heart, and he's always very supportive. So Matt's actually he's starting his new project soon. So he's doing a NFT sporting gaming platform. He's doing it on the Solana network, blockchain network. As I said, the thing is, at the end, we support people. At the end of the day, he's decided for his business reasons to do it on Solana, and I think can't be too judgmental in terms of where people take their particular projects. But as a person, I think I think it's be great to get support behind him. He continues to be a big supporter of all things Ravencoin, and so I just he's going through a bit of a hard time at the moment against some trolls and people that are actually having a go at him in terms of his new project that he's trying to launch. I think next month. I think he's aiming for. He's going through a bit of a hard time at the moment in terms of people having a go at him, as to questioning as to whether he should be doing, and because the blend of his doing in terms of the sporting. So a sporting NFT gaming project is copying a bit of slack at the moment from trollers, and so just shout out to him, say hello to him, and shout out to him, and and just give him some support. Like I say, he's a big supporter of all things Ravencoin, and give him send him a DM, send him some love, and because I know over the last day or so, he's really been finding it hard with some of the negativity towards his new projects he's trying to launch. So send some love out to him. But yeah, look, I think that's pretty much it for today. Thank you for joining us. Take care, stay safe, and same time, same place next week. Bye for now.